Got some great growth on these tulips in the front of the house. This is a problem, however, and to resolve it, I've bought this. But why have I bought it? Well, we've had some progress in the vegetable garden, so we'll go and have a look. Now you can probably make out that the dog seems to be running riot, and she's now presenting me with a bit of an issue. You can probably see here that the compost is certainly reduced in quantity, and that's because the man has been with his cultivating machine and he's created my space. So as I've mentioned in the past, we go up to there and we move across to there. But as we walk up, this is the issue that I've got. And it's Rada, who thinks that she can go wherever she wants. And it's not really her fault, because that's what she's been used to doing, because this was all basically waste ground. You're going to be familiar with the existing beds, and these beds we got over 500 kilos of produce last year. So the guy's been in and he went down about 3 or 4 inches, and what you can see on the ground here are dead roots from, we've got an area here that's pretty thick with this crabgrass, and what I need to do is a number of things. So the first thing I've done is I've created a track between each bed, and you can make them out there, and then I've got to cut a border along each edge of this to stop any crabgrass growing through. I'm not going to be able to get all this root out of this one. It's not everywhere, it's just in certain places, but here it's all died off. We'll come back to this in a second, but this is where the compost has been going and the horse manure right the way through, and I haven't quite finished yet, and we'll get further on down, but there's the issue, and we can't have this. Now, looking out beyond our fence line, the farmer's been in and he's disked all of this. It's not been ploughed, he's just cut it with a disc, because the soil is very sandy here, as you might have seen in the past. And I'm going to keep this area as grassed, if you like, or I might let it grow to some wildflowers, because it will happen. But again, on each bed I'm going to cut a line to stop any of the growth of the weeds or whatever it might be back into these beds here. But we're going to go down to the 2 beds where it all started, why I decided to do this, because that was the original problem. So let's just go and take a quick look at that, because it is pretty interesting. She thinks she's in for a game, but this is a growing space for fruit and veg. We can't have her running around here like a nut. Now, where the guy's been cultivating, you can pick out little bits of green, and these are just tufts of grass that he's basically scraped up as he's gone along. And what I've done is I'll put the compost down, because these bits of grass, they're not going to survive. They'll rot back into the soil. So anything that I come across as I'm sowing, I can remove as I go along. But like I say, you can see the different colours. It's either green waste, garden compost or horse manure. It doesn't matter for me. I just need to get something in the ground and covered it. And you can see there I've got half a bed to finish. And the same this side here. I've got this whole one to do here. Now we're coming into the 3 areas. It's now 3 beds, but it was really only 2 when it all started. And if we look closely, we'll come to the end one. You might recall this is where I planted the mustard. And so I made these beds last year with sawdust, newspaper and cardboard. And there's the telltale signs of the dog being in there. So this is why it's got to be sorted out. There's still the element of sawdust, but all the cardboard went, all the compost has gone in, and this is what I'm left with. And this is that problem area of crabgrass. So again here, cut lines around all the borders to stop it creeping back in. And basically I've got to keep on top of it. Now, when you stand back and you look that way, that's probably the same size as at least two, maybe 2.5 allotments sizes in the UK. It's a big space. And then you can double it by looking at that we've already got there. So how am I going to deal with this dog thinking it's her playground? Well, let me show you. Okay, so we're going to use this post or this fence line here, and we're going to run that chicken wire that you saw at the beginning all the way down to these white posts in the corner. These white posts are holding up the field elm that I planted 2 years ago to create some shelter. So we get to this point here, we'll probably come along to that particular corner there, and then we're going to come across using these posts. You're going to be familiar with those because you see Jack often climbing up them to play. It will come through here, we'll head up to the tap. So there we are. We're going to keep those lavenders there. So we've got the tap, and then we come across past the electricity box onto these two posts here from a different position to these two posts, come across and then go across to there, and we'll use that chicken wire. It's 1 meter high. It's a deterrent. It's basically to stop the dog from charging around, trashing the gaff basically. So what I need to do first is finish off the composting on top of those beds that I've yet to do, and then I can get this fencing in, and then once that's done, then I can begin sowing, because there are some things I'm going to sow. Now in this particular space here, it's going to be pretty radical. I'm not going to be putting any compost on there. I don't think I need to, because what I'm going to be doing with this space here is filling it with beans and peas. I need to get legumes into this area here because it will fix my nitrogen for me, so that next year I can start growing other things. But I just want to get some nitrogen in the ground. Yeah, I can see some bit of grass in there still, but remember that this ground here was like this. But because the soil is so sandy and quite soft, I was able just to cultivate it. So it's lifted up any surface grass. There's a little bit of crabgrass in there, isn't a huge amount, but it's okay for me to get these crops in the ground. So I'm going to be able to clear it, feed it, and feed ourselves. And then what I get left from the bean plants, there's going to be quite a few different varieties of beans. The plant material itself will go on the compost. So I get some biomass for next year's supply of compost. So it's a productive way for me to achieve what we're after. You'll see I've got some green paths either side. There's another one to the side of this particular bed and the fence to allow access to get up to the wood or whatever it is I need to do. But I've got to fence it off with the chicken wire, like I say. And then what I'll do here is I'll just pop in quite a rudimental gate of some description. Whether I pop in another little post there and slide a pallet across it that I can open and close, don't know yet, but I've got to stop the dog getting in there, because it's no good. I know I have had mice in there in this past season, but she'll be in there digging them up all the time if I don't do anything about it. So I've got to stop it. I mean, it's not as if she's got nowhere else to go. So that's my plan. I'm going to crack on with that, and let's have a look and see what it's like when I've finished. So the following day, I've managed to get the fence up. It's a temporary thing, but I wanted to do it as a deterrent to see if it would work for me and also for Rada, because she needs to get used to the fact that she can't come in here any longer and trash the place. Now, looking at these beds, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 beds now, 12 new beds. They're 12 metres long and they're 1 metre wide. And if you look at the tyre tracks there, they will go, because that's where I'm going to be putting the edge in to stop any weeds going through, as I've already mentioned. And then we're left with the space that's wide enough for a wheelbarrow. So that's the result of a total of 3 days work, which includes getting the compost in. These last 2 beds here, I haven't put any compost on. I'm not sure what to do with those, because they're the beds that, like I said earlier, are where we grew the mustard. And now as we come across the front of the veggie patch, it's not tight, this fence, because I need to get a couple of more posts in between. I've got some shrubs the other side of the fence line there that produce fruit. I think it's a rowan, but I don't know what the Hungarian name is. You have to forgive me on that. If you know, let me know. Be good. And then I've got this gated area here, and I'm undecided because I've got to work out whether or not I want the tractor and trailer to go through there in the future. And if I do, then I've got to get the spacing right. And also, what do I do when I want to get the hoses through that space there from the taps to water across in this direction? So these are all things I've got to consider. Having said that, I've just come up with another idea, so we'll save that for another video. So that's why it's unfinished. The principle I want to do at the moment is to get this in, to get Rada used to the fact that she can no longer go and play in that area. And now that I've achieved that, and like I say, it's a bit of a test, and I'm sure there'll be modifications and places where I need to tighten it. I know I've got a space in the corner there so that Jack crawls underneath. I don't think he's bothered either way. He can climb over the post and go in, so it's not for him, it's more for the dog. And like I said, I don't want her getting stressed out. It's not her fault. She's part of the family. But now I've done this, I can start concentrating on this area here now. I've got the compost on the beds, as we've just been looking at. Now I've got to get these ones sorted out. So I've got some really unseasonably warm weather at the minute. I've been checking my neighbours and I know they've sown peas, and I know I can get some in here. So I just want to decide which way these beds are going to go. Are they going to go like they are now, which is what I'm tending to think of doing, or do I go side to side? I think I'm going to go the way we're looking at them, so top to bottom. So that's going to be the next project on the agenda. I can now start getting some seeds in. I'm also noticing that I've got some weeds to deal with in the old raised beds from the last couple of years. So I can do that, and I want to get those cows out now and just finish top dressing that last part of that particular bed, and then we're ready to go. But now I can start actively looking at getting the beds sown with some seeds and surely or definitely weeded. So that's where we're at. We've been pretty productive. I wasn't sure if I had enough green waste, but as you can see, I did have enough. I've got a bit left over, and I'm pretty sure that if I scraped up this, I'll get a bit more of that as well. So I might mix the two together, I don't know yet. But I've got some projects to get on with in the front garden area as well. But a lot of progress is done. Something else on my list is to start turning this compost as well, and then turning these Daleks into one of the bays, because I know I've got compost in there. If you remember when I filled them up in end of September, they've dropped down quite considerably. Certainly the one on the right. So that's another thing I've got to do. Crikey, I've always got something to do in this place, haven't I? But just looking at this, you might be asking yourself, why didn't he just put a fence in like he did on that he's already done on the side of the house? Well, there's two things to that. One, it would have taken me a lot longer to do. And secondly, yeah, I could perhaps pay some guy to come in and do that job, but the idea of growing vegetables is to reduce costs. I don't need to reduce costs. It's a challenge that I need to set myself to keep me motivated. So paying for somebody coming in to do that is no fun. Doing it this way, I think the fencing in total cost me 50 quid, £50. And then I've made use of the posts that I've got already in the ground supporting the hedging, as I've said, already there. Or some odd bits of wood that I've found in the shed that I can reuse. It's all part of growing. So now it's done. As with any space, of any size, there's always something that needs to be done. So now I've got that job done, or ticked off my list, I can now start focusing more intensely on getting some seeds started. Getting close to the beginning of March, in the next few days actually. So that's where my focus must be now. So for now, take care, and I'll catch you soon. I'm going to let the dog out now, see what she thinks of this new setup. How did that get there?